Hight here with the Hight Show. I hope you guys are having a beautiful, wonderful day. And if you're not and it's raining, you know what? It's still a great day. As you know how we do on the Hight Show, every day is a good day because you are here, our special guest. So I wanted to say thank you so much today. I have a great surprise for you guys today. I have a guest by the name of Mr. Randy Snow. And Randy Snow is a brilliant young man. He is a great person, and we have actually a lot in common. And before I bring him home, I want to bring him onto the show. I want to tell you a little bit about Randy. Randy is a guy that has multiple talents, multiple skills, a great person. He served in the military. He served the federal government. He has a podcast show that is great. And especially you folks, I'm going to give you a hint. If you like the Detroit Lions, wow. If you like football, wow. This guy has a surprise for you. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome to the podcast show, Mr. Randy Snow. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Outstanding, Randy. Outstanding. Glad to see you, man. My old Toastmaster buddy, my old military comrade, my old federal service guy. What a beautiful person Mr. Randy Snow is here. And so welcome to the Hight Show, Randy.
Thank you, Al. You talk about friends from different worlds. You know, I have my friends from the Guard base. I have my friends from the federal government. I have my friends from Toastmasters. You've been in all three of those.
That's right.
I can't get away from you, Al. I just can't.
You can't get away. Hey, and we even served active duty at the same time frame. So that is great. So outstanding, Randy. We may even get a chance to go over a few of those things. But today we are here to talk about you and your podcast show. We can all see the great Lions behind us. As we know, the Lions, man, since 1959, 58, you know, they didn't really do too good. And they had a long stretch that they wasn't doing so well. But you know what? Folks like you and I, who are from Michigan, we don't give up on the Lions. We don't give up on our teams. We are true Michiganders. For those folks who don't know Michigan, we call ourselves Michiganders. And so we support our teams very, very, very much so, even if they're underground and they don't do so well. So we had some Tigers. They did really well. They're in the playoff right now, and we hope that they can last. So, Randy, before I get too far off, you know how I go. And I got to remember my I got to remember my Toastmasters ethics. And so let's have Randy introduce himself a little bit. Randy, tell us about yourself, sir.
Well, like you said, I was born and raised here in Michigan. I went to basic training in 1981. And I got into the weapons career field. I was at the Battle Creek Air Guard Base, which you were also at, until from 81 to 2002. So I was about 21 years. And I went to the Federal Center. And, you know, you went to the Federal Center, too, after your time at the Guard Base. So, yeah, our lives have kind of paralleled quite a bit in that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I joined the Toastmasters Club at the Federal Center, which you also joined. Yeah, but I loved the military. I wasn't the kind of guy that was going to go into the military. When I was a little kid, my brother got sent to Vietnam for a year, and I saw my mother struggling with that for a year, worrying about, you know, is he going to be okay? Is he going to come home? And and I was, he was 10 years older than I was, and I just said, boy, I'm never going to join the military. That's not for me. And when I was 22 years old. I had no job, and I had a really nice Mustang that I was in jeopardy of losing because I had no job. So I said, well, I got to do something. And there was a military pamphlet at the post office I saw. So I joined the Air National Guard and was able to save my car and had a pretty good life after that. I met my wife in the Guard. You know, knew my wife also, met my wife in the Guard, and we've got 4 kids and just have had a pretty good life, and the military was a big part of that.
Well, Randy, what a great story, man! And you're right, we did serve parallel throughout and I didn't know that you had an older brother who served in as well, Vietnam.
Yeah.
And when we say the military, when he says he did that, folks, he's talking about the Air Force and the Air National Guard. Many people, when they hear the National Guard, they think of only the Army National Guard, but there's actually
Right.
an Air National Guard as
Yep.
well. We both served in the Air National Guard as well as active duty military. As Randy was, I don't know if he was deployed a few times. It's not Randy. If not, he did serve some active duty time as well. And so great parallels. My brother also served in Vietnam. So we are still parallel there. He did 3 tours in Nam as well. And some of the places that he wasn't supposed to be over there, he was there too. So with that being said, I do understand that. And regarding how your mom felt about your brother being there. Likewise, my mom, and I can actually tell you a story there about that, but I won't go all into it today. But there was a time there that he was missing for a while, and we didn't know if we were ever going to find him again. But lo and behold, he showed up. So I understand the anguish of folks back then. A lot of folks don't remember that wasn't born at that time, about the draft. And every Friday you see a number that pulls up, and if your number were called, you were going. So different time. But that being said, Randy, let's go into what you're doing now. We are here again. I'm doing a podcast show, and look at this. You have one as well. So I'm not sure what's going on there, Randy. Tell us about your podcast show.
Yeah, Al, who's following who here? Am I following you or are you following me?
I don't
know. But many years ago, in 2000, I went to my first arena football game. I mean, I'd always loved the Detroit Lions and college football, Michigan State, all the different football that was out there. And in 2000, I heard about this thing called the Arena Football League, and they play indoors on hockey rinks, and it's a 50-yard field, and they had a team in Grand Rapids, and I went, and in fact, it was one of the guys from the base that set up a base trip. He got like 20, 30 tickets, and we all drove up there together. We sat together, and it was a great experience. And a year later, I became a season ticket holder of the Rampage. Wow. And about a year after that, I began covering the team for a website called arenafan.com. And so they got me access to the press box at the Van Andel Arena. And I covered the games, and I spoke to the players and coaches after the game, and I wrote up articles. And I did that from 2000 and I guess it was 2002 to 2008 when the team folded, and the whole league folded at that time, but they came back a year later. So that was my thing, was going to the game, going into the press box, watching the game, and my kids still maintained the season tickets that I had, which were right in front of the press box. So I'm sitting in the press box, and I could look down over the edge of the press box, and I could see him down there, and it was like, hey, who gave my son money for nachos? I didn't give him money for nachos. Where did he get nachos from? And so it was great. I was always taking a couple of kids with me to the Rampage games, and I covered a couple other teams around Michigan and Indiana even. And then about the time that I was retiring from the Federal Center, that was 2017, my son said, Dad, you've got all this football knowledge. Why don't we do a football podcast? And I was like, I don't know. I really don't want to do that. And I didn't know anything about it. And he had played around with podcasts with his friends. So he said, let's do a football podcast. And so we did. And we did our first show in August of 2017. And I thought it was going to be like a throwaway show, like a practice thing. Well, let's see what we want to do, what we don't want to do, blah, blah, blah. And we got done with it. And he goes, okay, I'm going to post that on YouTube. And I said, what? And it was a terrible show. It was just terrible. The audio quality was bad. We had terrible microphones. It was just a mess. But it's out there. And since that time, 8 years now, we have been doing a podcast every single week for the last 8 years. We take a few breaks here and there. But,
congratulations.
We're going to be having episode 415 next Tuesday, because we always record on Tuesdays.
Oh, so wow. We've done 415,
what a milestone. 415 episodes. It's And now it started out as just an audio podcast. So, we just recorded our voices and we posted it different places. And then we got into doing, video content where we would record it and then post it later on. So we could fix any mistakes or whatever. And now, since our 400th episode, Adam says, I think we should be doing this live. And so now we're doing it live every week. We're actually doing 4 different shows every week. On Sundays, my son Adam and my son-in-law Kyle, they do a Detroit Lions podcast called Just Lying Around. And they'll review the game, and they'll talk about it, and they'll talk about next week's game. And then on Monday, right now, Adam and I are doing a Canadian Football League podcast where we talk about the games up in Canada. We give stats from the players, and we talk about that because we love Canadian football. I've been to many games in Canada, in Toronto and Hamilton, and last year we even went to the Grey Cup game, which is their version of the Super Bowl. That was in Vancouver. We went to that last year, and so we're very familiar with the league. So yeah, Mondays we do a Canadian podcast. Tuesdays, we've got our regular show that we've been doing for 8 years now. It's called This Week in the World of Football. And we talk everything. We'll talk college football. We'll talk NFL. We'll talk football leagues down in Mexico and in Europe. And we've got a guy that comes on from Japan to give us scores from Japan. We're all over the place. That's why we call it the World of Football. That's our logo, the football in the world. And then on Wednesdays now, we do our NFL picks. So we do a video where we pick all the NFL games for the coming week, and we've got about a dozen people that join in with us, and they do their picks. And we put standings every week. who had the best week this week, who was our leader overall, and we try to crown a champion every year. And I didn't want to do that either, but I think of the 7 years we've been doing it, I think I've won it 5 times over my kids.
Oh, so I see that you're competitive.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Well, that's great, Randy. Man, what a great thing. Some of the questions I was going to ask you answered a lot of those things, like how did you get into it and your interest in it, and is your family involved? You got your son and your other folks or family involved in it. You're doing 4 shows a week, man, and you didn't retire. Doggone, you're still busy. You're working, man.
I thought when I retired, I'd be working for my wife. And it turns out I'm working for my son now because he does all the behind the scenes stuff. He does all the recording and all the editing for our videos and stuff like that. So he's the power behind this whole podcast. I'm just the pretty face, but he's got the actual power.
Hey, listen, and you know what? And so that is the star of the show. When you have a face like yours and mine, man, what can people say, right?
Well,
we don't get older; we just get nicer. Like why?
I've been told for years that I have a face that screams to be on the radio, but
there
it just didn't work out that way.
Outstanding, Randy. Well, listen, so tell us, what? I've heard some of your great stories about the Lions and some of the great information that you have that people just don't know. And so can you share a few stories that you can tell us? And in fact, I would like for you, I remember one about the tombstone you went to visit in Ohio, about one of the players there. And so if you can tell us a couple of stories about history, about football, just so that folks can know how in depth you are about football and your great knowledge, especially regarding the Detroit Lions.
Well, I belong to an organization called the Professional Football Researchers Association, and they produce a newsletter or little magazine every other month. And I did an article for that publication a few years back. It was called 10 Things You Probably Don't Know About the Detroit Lions. And it's turned into a whole series where a lot of people every week, I think they just had one this week, 10 Things You Didn't Know About the Raiders, and so people have gone through all the NFL teams, or they're working their way through all the teams to, as from a fan's perspective, fans know more about their team than anybody else. So it's fans of all these teams that were writing these articles. And some of the things that I included in my article was that, did you know that Marvin Gaye tried out for the Lions one time? He was very good friends with Barney and, who was the running back's name? Farr. I don't know if you remember those guys. But they were all friends, and Marvin Gaye loved the Lions and wanted to try out for the team, and he got very serious about it. He turned his garage into a gym. I think he probably took his Mercedes or whatever car he had in there and took it out, and he had all this exercise equipment, and he got very serious about it. He wanted to have a legitimate tryout, and they invited him to come to a tryout with a bunch of other people at a college stadium, and he did, and I think the world is a better place because he didn't actually make it on the line. So he went back to making some great music in Motown, and that's what he was meant to do. But he wanted to try out. They let him try out, and I think he was satisfied with that. But that's just one of the stories about the Lions that many people probably don't know. And another one is that Lem Barney and Mel Farr sang backup on his song "What's Going On."
That's right.
And they actually had gold records because that record, was a gold. It went gold. The record.
Yes, it did. It did.
And so Lem Barney has a gold record on his wall because he was a backup singer on that.
Now, how many people would know something like that?
You got to be a true fan to know that sort of thing.
You have to be a true. I mean, can you imagine Marvin Gaye playing football and then having Lem Barney as well as Mel Farr singing backup for him? Oh my goodness. And folks don't know that. And so there's so many stories like that I've heard Mr. Snow, Randy, speak up in our Toastmaster club before. And some of the knowledge, like, watch this. I know this. When is the last time? Now, this is a trick question. And so only the true football sports fans will know this, and especially the Lion fan. Now, Randy's going to know this right away, so he's going to answer it. But if you're out there and listening to us, take a guess at it. And I know that you're going to get it wrong because only folks like Randy, and I only happen to know because he told me this. Randy, when is the last time that the Detroit Lions won a Super Bowl?
Never. Their last championship was in 1957, which is 2 years before I was born. And in the Super Bowl era, there are 4 teams that have never played in a Super Bowl to this day: the Detroit Lions, the Cleveland Browns, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Houston Texans. Those are the 4 teams that have never been in a Super Bowl.
You're not going to add the North Carolina Panthers?
No. North Carolina Panthers? Oh, no, they
Jaguars.
The Jaguars.
The Tennessee Titans.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it the Jaguars? Oh, who was the 4th team? Well, I could have sworn it was the Texans. I don't know. Well, I don't know if the Jaguars.
Actually, that's not true because it was the Houston Oilers when Earl Campbell used to play for them. But we can go back there. So I know a little knowledge there. I'm just going to put a stuff. But what I thought you was going to say, the last time that the Detroit Lions won a championship, they never won a Super Bowl because they didn't have the Super Bowl. Super Bowl didn't start until what, 1960?
66, I think, was
61, something like that, right? And so prior to that time, they didn't have that. But the Lions did pretty good up until that point. Until they started having championships game in the Super Bowls, and then they just start playing a different kind of game. And you would only hear about teams like Green Bay, the New York Jets, Roger Staubach, and those guys from Dallas Cowboys, and Dale Sayers and those guys from Chicago Bears. Those are the kind of people you heard about. But the Lions was a great team. They did win a national championship, but like you said, I think that was 1957.
They actually won 4 NFL titles in their history. The first one was in 1935, a year after they moved to Detroit from Portsmouth, Ohio. They were the Portsmouth Spartans before that. And then they played in 4 championship games in the 1950s, and all 4 of them were against the Cleveland Browns.
That's right.
They beat the Browns in 52 and 53, and they lost to the Browns in 54, and then they beat the Browns in 57, and that was the last championship that Detroit's ever had.
That's right. So so all you folks who don't know about football, listen, I'm telling you, I want you to listen into Mr. Randy Snow podcast show. Randy, tell them the name of your show again.
It's called This Week in the World of Football, and we record it every Tuesday night. It's live right now. We're doing it around 4:00 in the afternoon. But if you don't catch it live, you can catch it later because it'll be out there on YouTube. And like I said, we've been doing it for 8 years.
Where can they find it at on YouTube, Randy?
On YouTube, if you go to the handle for that is at the World of Football, or you can search the World of Football Kalamazoo, and you'll find it either way in YouTube.
Okay, and we'll make sure that we put it on our podcast and we'll stream it so that you guys can see it and get the information as well. Randy, how can someone get a hold to you if they want to learn more about what you do and to invite you to be a guest maybe on their show or to provide information to you of something that they have knowledge of, or maybe an old classic or something relic of the Lions? How could they get a hold to you?
Well, we're on all the different social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on X, which used to be Twitter, we're on Instagram and Threads, and the name for each one of those is TWOF Kalamazoo, and that's for Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads.
So when you're not working and you're doing all this stuff that you've been doing, you and I both, but I'm going to speak directly about you this time. When you're not working and you're not talking football, what is it that you like to do, buddy?
Oh, well, I like to go visit football graves around the Midwest.
Here we go. Tell us about the football grave that you actually went to visit. I love this story, so let's tell it. Let's hear it.
Well, this all started in 2008. I had just finished reading a book about Knute Rockne, the great coach from Notre Dame. And at the end of the book, it talked about how he was buried in the Highland Cemetery in South Bend. And I thought, I'm only like an hour away from South Bend, living here in Kalamazoo. And so I went down there and found his grave and got my picture taken with it. And since then, I've been all over the Midwest visiting graves of football players, football coaches, football owners, anybody that had something to do with football. I've been to Louisville, Kentucky, and I found Paul Hornung's grave there, and been all over Ohio. Ohio is a hotbed for a lot of football folks. Paul Brown.
Don't say that too loud now. You are in Michigan and you're not too far from Ann Arbor, so don't say that too loud. We actually had a war against Ohio back there when they tried to become a state, and we had to whoop them up, and we gave them Toledo because the federal government made us give them Toledo, and we took the UP. That's how we got the Upper Peninsula, because we whooped their tail. But you know what? When we still, the U of M, University of Michigan, is the most winningest team ever in college football so far. However, we are being challenged by those old Buckeyes, but and I know that they would love to challenge us, but they would never be as great as the Wolverines. And the Spartans are little sisters. And I don't send me the emails. Don't send me the emails, Spartans. I know that you don't like being called little sisters, but until you win more games than what we have at U of M, you're going to be the little sisters. I don't want your emails. I'm just kidding, guys. If you guys are not familiar with that, the Wolverines and the Spartans have a nice little interstate rivalry as well. Not quite as strong as the Buckeyes, but the Spartans are a great team as well. All right. I'm sorry, Randy.
Well, years ago, I went to Bo Schembechler's grave in Ann Arbor. And about 2 weeks ago, I was actually in Columbus, Ohio, and I visited the grave of Woody Hayes.
Get out of here! Did you really?
I did. Yes, okay. And another thing that we do is we do a special not really a podcast, but a special video, and it's called "Have Grave Will Travel," and it's all the stories about me going to these graves. And I took some video of me at the grave of Woody Hayes, and I was wearing a University of Michigan T-shirt when I
goodness!
did that.
Listen, for you Buckeye fans, I had nothing to do with it. I know nothing. I see nothing. You're standing over Woody Hayes' grave with a U of M. You know what? And I know he's looking up at you. because the Ohio Buckeyes couldn't look down on us. But anyway, that being said,
I was a little nervous in the cemetery because I kept looking around to see if anybody was watching as I was wearing that T-shirt. But it wasn't
right.
it wasn't to insult Woody Hayes or anything. In fact, in the video I say this is me honoring the 10-year war that Michigan and Ohio State had when
Bo
Woody Hayes
Schembechler
and Bo Schembechler were the coach for 10 years. That was everybody was watching that game when those two
absolutely some of the greatest games you ever see.
Yep.
How many times did those teams ever go to the Rose Bowl? Oh my goodness! Long before they had the championship the way that they do now, those two teams actually ran the college league football teams. I know that we have the SEC in there now, and they do pretty good, but none of them, not even the Roll Ties of Alabama, the Clemsons and Georgia Dogs, they did not compare to Michigan and Ohio. So they are good teams now, but they did not compare then at that time to Michigan and Ohio. And both colleges, universities are great. Have great campus, and they do a lot of great things. Well, Randy, man, a lot of great information. Is there anything else you do besides visiting people for fun on their grave? Is there, I know Halloween is coming up. We're in October here, but is there anything else you want to share that you do that you want the audience to know?
Well, like I said, we do special videos, and we do history lessons also in our on our YouTube channel. And things like Don Dahl was a player for the Detroit Lions back in the 50s, and he has a connection to history because when he was serving on the USS Missouri during World War II, he was present at the signing, the surrendering of the Japanese to the Americans, because that was done on the U.S. Missouri, which is where he was serving. So he was one of the people that was hanging off the, off the ship or right on deck to witness the surrender of the Japanese. So he had a part of history. So there's a lot of stories like that, and we've talked about a lot of those stories in our history lessons, and they're only like 3 or 4 minute long things.
Absolutely, and a lot of folks did not know that was a big thing back then. So a lot of folks, if they didn't play football, they played baseball. So you'll find a lot of folks that served in the military during World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam War, that they were a lot of sports fans back there. Those were great pastimes for our troops as well. They would, when they did have a chance to have a break and they have a small radio frequency, they would listen in to the games for no matter where they are. And I forget the radio broadcast that used to Radio America Freedom Radio or something like that. I believe it was called, and they would listen to it, or on the BBC. They would listen to it in Europe. So great things, and we're proud of our servicemen and women for certain. Many sports fans. Randy, this has been a great show. I hope to have you back again to tell us more about what you do. There's something that you and I talked about, and we recently lost one of our great friends of ours, a Toastmaster, and I want to honor him, Mr. Tom Dutton, a great friend of ours out of Battle Creek area, who also was a Toastmaster and one of your good buddies. And I don't want to fail to not mention Tom. He was a great orator. One of the great ones, as I would call him. And so I miss him dearly. I know you do as well. And I bring him up because you failed to mention that one of your other greatest pastimes was going to McDonald's. And I know McDonald's, we might need you guys to subscribe to us, McDonald's, and be sponsors for us, because the man that you have in front of you is the world premier person for McRibs. This guy drove. Tell them how far you would drive to get a McRib.
I had to go down to Fort Wayne, Indiana, a couple of years ago to get a McRib because there weren't none in Michigan, but there were in Fort Wayne. It's only an hour and a half drive away, but
it's only an hour and a half to just go get a McRib sandwich. That's all.
It was totally worth it. I'm telling you, I love the McRib.
So McDonald's, if you're listening out there, you have a great friend and a great pal and Mr. Randolph Snow, and he could use some sponsors on his show. And so when he's talking about the Lions, no other place will you find a gentleman that loves McDonald's McRibs, and they only come out seasonal here in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
if it's up to Mr. Snow, he would love for you to have it here all the time. It should not be seasonal. My buddy Randy shouldn't have to drive an hour and a half to get a McRib. That's a shame. McDonald's, let's put them around here.
Well, it's not even every year. It could be every couple of years that they bring it back. I want to see it every year, like around Christmas time or whatever. Every year, bring it back for a month or so.
Christmas McRib.
There you go.
That's great. Well, Randy, man, as I always say, man, great show. Great hearing about some of the things you have. Fans out there, the Al Hight Show, I want you to take time out and I want you to check out Randy Snow on his podcast. And mention your podcast again, Randy.
It's called theworldoffootball.com, and you can find it on YouTube by searching for The World of Football Kalamazoo, or use the handle at The World of Football, and you'll find it on YouTube.
That's right. Well, you saw it, folks, and we'll make sure that we put it on our streamlines as well as the show, that we'll make sure that we air it on there. So The World of Football, and like I said, we just touched the surface of what Randy really knows about the Lions. And folks, when I tell you, if you want to know about the Lions, Randy has predicted that the Lions are going all the way. He didn't say where they were going all the way to, but he said they were going all the way. He has said that a few times, and we've been disappointed a few times. But I tell you, they have all the main ingredients to actually take it all the way through. And you'll never find a greater Lion fans. And so you Lions. So listen up, Ford family over here in Detroit area. I want you to listen up. Take Mr. Randolph Snow on the road with you. He knows his stuff. He can tell you great things that these other broadcasters do not know on live TV, and you listen to it right now. So Detroit Ford family that owns the Detroit Lion, listen up. Mr. Campbell, listen up to Mr. Randy Snow. He can give you some great information on how to win that Super Bowl. We came close last year, and we know it was stolen the year before because we should have been there. We know that we're not going to say that the Rams cheated on us or stole a game, but he did check in, and so we should have had that game. And so that being said, I want to say thank you again, Randy, for joining our show today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Any
Al.
last words from you, sir?
Just to say thank you for having me on. You know, Al, you and I go way back. We've known each other for so many years, and it's really good to get with you. Last time I saw you was at Tom Dutton's funeral, and I don't want the next time I see you to be at somebody else's funeral that we know. So.
Oh no, man! I plan on making it over to Battle Creek and maybe even sharing a few toasts with you guys there and Battle Creek Federal Center for sure. I will plan to in my schedule at some point to see Tom McConnery and Linda and all the rest of those great folks back over there again. Well, folks, I want to say thank you to my guest today, Mr. Randolph Snow. And as you guys know, we do all the time before we end the Al Hight Show, I'm going to ask you to each take time out, be kind to each other, be nice to each other. We know that there's a lot of things going on in our world, and it's great to take time out to speak to a great friend like Randy Snow about just the simple things in life. You know, sometimes in life, you just want peace and enjoy the simple things, like a day of football or baseball. And if you have time, I want you to listen to Randy Snow and his show with his sons for the World of Football. A really great guy. Be kind to one another. Treat each other with respect. We're all Americans. Love each other. Be kind. Be understanding. Be patient and cheerful at heart. If you got something to say that's mean, don't say it. Just listen. Be respectful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for being part of the Al Hight Show, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Have a great day.